I have this mutual admiration thing happening for you. And I appreciate you guys inviting me on your platform, a couple of months ago. And I was so excited to have you join us here. And when we talked yesterday, you said, you know what, Ben, we're just going to let it flow and go in the direction that it goes, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And I hope that I am, those who know me well know that I am a really sensitive guy. And when I woke up this morning and I saw that you had, again, we talk about life, right? You had another loss. I just thought it felt appropriate for me just to give you um, an opportunity to show appreciation, gratitude for your friend, for your son. And I think that I just felt, I don't know, it's on my heart to go in that direction briefly.
Oh,
And
okay.
so,
Yeah. I appreciate the opportunity to do that. Um,
yes.
so my son, my oldest son, passed away when he was 20 years old. That was exactly 5 years ago yesterday. Yesterday was the 5 year anniversary of when he passed away. He had an aggressive form of cancer. He came home from college and he couldn't feel his legs. And it went downhill very quickly, and he died 4 months after that. It was a very aggressive cancer. And so yesterday was 5 years of that day. And then, as you mentioned, on the same day, one of my dearest friends, my oldest friend, actually, her name was Taz. Taz and I were a terror. We terrorized that town of Seattle in middle school and high. We were bad. I'm just gonna be honest. We were bad. and we were bad, and we grew up and we had families. And unfortunately, yesterday, her oldest son, who was 20 years old, found her dead in her bed. We don't know what happened to her. Probably she was a severe diabetic, so it may have been a diabetic coma. But yeah, we lost Taz on yesterday as well. So two wonderful people. My son was. I always, people are like, you act like your son was an angel. To me, he was an angel sent straight from heaven, and then God took him back. Now, Taz, I would describe her a little bit differently. I don't think people would call us angels from anywhere, but definitely one of my closest and best friends. And when my son did pass, we hadn't even spoken in quite some time. She jumped on the first plane and came here, and so I love them both very dearly, and I appreciate you allowing space to honor them, because they were here and they are definitely loved. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think it's so crazy that you and I share membership in a group in a society that no one wants to be a part of.
Mhm.
Because I lost Ben at 18, and he was about to enter college, hadn't even made it there yet.
Mhm.
And I think the same thing. I'm so fortunate and blessed that I did get those short 18 years.
Mhm.
Naturally, it pains me every day as I look here in my office. There is a huge poster of him, and he looks. I feel like I look at him every day, and he helps sometimes lead me in the right direction when
Yeah.
Dad's not feeling it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He was the kind of kid who would uh, he would say, he's like, Dad, I see you, I see you, and
Yeah.
that was Ben's way of saying, oh, I see what you're doing. Right. I see the blessing that you are to people. I see
Oh, that's
the
beautiful. Yeah.
great things that you're doing, right?
Yeah.
And so he helps lead me. And it's
I understand it differently. My son would say, Mom, don't do that. Don't do that. So now I will think of, what would Eric do? Because I'd be
yeah.
like, you know what, I'm going to tell those people. No, he wouldn't. Mom, don't do that. Yeah. He also leads me in a different way.
Yes. Well, again, we're blessed, and it's life.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and again, I think that today is a great day just to say thank you.
Yes.
With Thanksgiving just a day or so away, it also felt appropriate. And I know you've got so many that have influenced you, that have rode beside you, behind you, in front of you, carried you. Because I realized at that time after losing Ben, I thought I was the baddest man on the planet, right? Everyone leaned on me, and
Mhm.
I didn't I had, thank goodness, I had a Taz, and it was Vince,
Uh-huh.
aka Junkyard, and everybody who knows me well knows my best friend is Vince Fulcher, but his nickname is Junkyard. And that guy, he was a cop, and as soon as it happened for the next week, he didn't leave my side. And
Oh,
just like Taz, right?
yeah.
That's true friendship and community. So without getting too tearful, uh, thank you to the folks who are here today, and I think we thank the people who are in our lives that help strengthen us and keep us lifted when even we get low. So, all
Mm-hmm.
right, all right, let's talk just a little real estate.
Yeah.
And here's a crazy question because I think you're head of inclusion and diversity. I don't even know if I'm saying it properly.
You're not, but that's okay. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Well, clear it up for us, so we know.
We call it head of inclusion and belonging. Yeah.
And belonging. I
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this: with the change in administration we've got, and we know we've got a difficult job already. Do you believe that it will be even more difficult now, or you're excited about opportunities?
It probably will be more challenging. And just to clarify, what the intention of inclusion and belonging is simply at Keller Williams, we have a desire to make our franchises, we call them market centers, the most inclusive places in the world because we believe that people thrive through real estate, whether you're buying it, selling it, teaching it, whatever you're doing. I believe people build wealth through real estate. And so we want to create environments where anybody who wants to engage in that can find a space and do that successfully. So that is the idea behind inclusion and belonging, is to create a space where anyone, no matter who they are, where they come from, what they look like, can walk into the organization and find opportunities and be successful in the world of real estate. It's always been challenging,
Yes.
mainly because I believe most people don't understand exactly what I just said it to be. They use an acronym, the diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI, and they don't even entirely know what it means.
Yes.
They just know that they were told they don't like it. so
Mhm.
and to be honest, a lot of people do it differently, and it does mean different things depending on different organizations. And
Right.
so, unfortunately, it has kind of been polarized, and just the acronym itself causes confusion. But more so now that there are public agendas to dismantle
Yes.
kind of that work. And so, but I don't think that stops each and every single one of us from
No.
still being who we are and doing the work that we do. And maybe it gets done a little bit differently. And there's always opportunity in real estate, and there's always opportunity in challenges, and there's always opportunity in any situation on any day that the sun comes up. And so while it might be a different challenge, it's always been a challenge, and it's just up to us how we go about doing what we've always done, which is overcoming challenges. That's what we do.
That's what we do. Right. And I know and I think I heard you say at, it might have been a conference, it might have been mega camp, I don't even know, when you talked right here specifically about, about mindset and having that abundant mindset that there's enough opportunities and success, for everyone.
Yes.
And I think it's the for everyone that I'd like to highlight, because I think in the climate that we find ourselves, we've got many who are intimidated because they currently think that your success now means that they get less.
Right.
And I
Yeah. And that is exactly that's a scarcity mindset, right? It's not the
absolutely,
mindset.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
And in
Yeah.
fact, I don't know where you heard me say that at, but that was my TED talk. Actually, I did a TED talk on that, Ben, and it
Well,
hasn't come out yet. So
get out, get out of here. Well, again, I try to stay on it, and I don't know
yeah.
where
I
I
was
got
like,
it.
where did you say that? I said that at TED talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I haven't seen the TED Talk. And if so, when does that appear?
It comes out in either late December or early January. I don't know. They're being a little slow on the draw, but exactly, I spoke about that. I spoke about the misunderstanding of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that it simply is for us to all have opportunities. And real estate, just because someone is winning doesn't mean you need to lose. It's not a zero sum game. Just because
Absolutely.
someone gets an opportunity doesn't mean they're taking it away from you. We in real estate believe that there's an abundance of opportunities. And so
Absolutely.
there's money for me and you and Christina and everybody else on this call and being able to support each other with an abundant mindset, we actually create much better businesses, much better communities. Specifically, I think because we are different, that's how we build bigger businesses. And I use some analogies in the TED Talk, but more or less, like even these people seem to be, and I'm just talking visually because there's 1,000 things that make us different on the inside and internally, but all of the fact that we are all different together, we would be able to create something great because you don't think like I think, and you don't have my background that I have, and you don't have my experiences, and I certainly don't have some of yours. And so I would love your perspective and your insight because maybe you could help me reach other people that see it how you see it. And then I'll help you reach people that see it how I see it. And then together we can build something very big. And that's what the whole talk is. And that's actually what diversity, equity, and inclusion is. It's I'd
Yes.
like to know people who aren't anything like me because we don't need no more Julia Lashays out here.
Right.
I need to know Stephen and Joe and Christina and Kendra. I need to know Kai and Mike. I need to know the people who aren't like me so
Absolutely.
that together we can have, because people say stuff and it's like, I never in 1,000 cajillion million years would have ever thought to do that. That's a brilliant idea.
Yes.
But I don't come from where you come from. And I don't know who you know, and I don't know what you know. So that's really what I spoke about was collectively, because we are different, we have the power to build really big businesses and really big lives. Yeah.
And I think all that harkens right back to communication, right? We need to talk. We need to talk and not be afraid, even when the other side is hesitant and or afraid. Yeah, and I think we need to stay proactive and just do what we do. And
Yeah, I think it's good, and especially conversations about real estate. I know we got short time on your podcast, but I want to tell you this. I keep telling people I'm going to write a book called I met a guy on a plane because every time I fly a lot. I keep
yes,
these guys on the plane that have that like we have nothing in common other than the fact that we have real estate in common, and you don't know that until we start talking. The first guy I sat next to, his name was David, and David owns cabins and land in the middle of Colorado, 50 miles from any city, right? And he's telling me about hunting, and he's showing me the moose that he hunted, and his friends his kid had shot the first elk, and we're having this deep conversation about hunting and about this land that he owns and the cabinets, and he's showing me the pictures on his phone, all the remodels. We have a 2-hour conversation with a guy named David that would have never spoken to me if we hadn't been sat next to each other, right?
correct.
And we learned that we both do real estate, and he's telling me, and I'm interested in how he sold his business, his actual veterinary business, not cats and dogs. He did like horses and cows and pigs. But he sold it owner financing, which fascinated me. So then we had a conversation about owner financing these private businesses. I mean, I learned a lot from him and he learned a lot from me, but it's because we had a conversation,
Absolutely.
right? And that's something we don't typically do is just sit down next to random strangers that I would have never met this guy. He lives 50 miles from any city. I'm a Hilton kind of girl. Okay. I'm not a tit kind of girl.
Yeah.
I'm not milking cows and stuff, like we would have never met otherwise, but we found we had a lot in common. He actually chased me down after we got off the plane and said, "Wait, Julia, I need your information in case we can do business together."
And that's
And we miss those conversations because we don't actually go and seek out people who are different than us. We typically want to have conversations with people we have an affinity for, people
that's
who are like us, whatever that might be. But when you engage in conversations with people like David, or last week it was Clinton, and Clinton and I might have had one too many drinks on the plane, but that's neither here nor there. But Clinton also owned some mechanic businesses, and he talked about his land and his businesses. Conversations I just wouldn't have. And I think there's a lot of value in those. There was a lot of value in it for me. I like to believe there was some value in those conversations for them as well, having met me. So exactly what you said is what we should do. And to me, that's what diversity, equity, and inclusion is. I met a guy on a plane.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I love the direction that this is going, even though I had no direction when we
Yeah.
started.
Yeah.
Felt like, you know what, it would flow. But you know what? It's easy when I feel like I'm talking to friends and family anyway. We can conversate forever, like you and that guy for 2 hours on a plane, right? It's just
Because I
amazing.
talk too much. Ben, I told you me and Taz used to get in trouble all the time, right? Like mine was always I talk too much, I talk too loud, I said the wrong thing. So yeah, we could do this for days because I'd like to talk. You'll never have a problem with me on the podcast.
Well, I know you have other things to do, and so do the other folks who join us today. But I think that in order for us to succeed in 2025, right, that we know that real estate is a contact sport. So we should be willing to put ourselves in those opportunities because I think we don't grow unless we stretch, right? And sometimes it's having those awkward conversations because I've had a few with some folks who think completely opposite me, and
Mhm.
yet it's still an opportunity to learn something. So I'm willing to do it,
Yeah,
and I think most of us on this call are today. So
yeah.
uh, I'm curious, real quick, when you're asked to do a TED Talk, because I've seen so many of them now, how does that happen, and where does that call come from?
It doesn't. You have to apply
Oh,
most of
get out. Okay,
be
okay.
on a TED Talk, and it's pretty hard to get into. Actually,
Hmm.
it was quite difficult, and took really a long time before somebody wanted to hear what I had to say. But I'm glad they did. It's gonna be great. It's so good, y'all. You wait till Ben will share it with you. Ben will put it
Man,
out there. It's really good. I have
I,
to say,
I can't wait. You said December, so bring it because,
yeah,
and maybe I don't know, but I'm so excited. So, and you've got so many things you do, and so tell folks who are not aware, even about the color of money, and if there is something else that you contribute to or another podcast, talk briefly about that.
yeah. So the Color of Money podcast is a podcast that was actually created by Gary Keller and Bowman Keaty to help people of color earn more, learn more, and build wealth. Being that there's the largest disparity in the world happens to exist amongst Black people who have largest disparity in home ownership, healthcare, employment, whatever you name it. The idea was to provide conversations, to your point, Ben, of having conversations that help expand mindsets, help people get resources, to have conversations about building wealth. Of course, we believe you do that through entrepreneurship and through real estate. And so that is, we have all kind of guests come on and talk about four pillars, really: leadership, wealth building, development, community development, or just, I might have already said, did I already say run the business, running a real estate business, leadership, wealth building? You know, y'all know what I'm trying to say. So those are
So,
the conversations that we have on that podcast, which apply to anyone, by the way. Absolutely. And it doesn't have to be a person of color. The conversations we're having are explicitly about growing business and building wealth. And we just do it with a lot of really cool people like you. You were on the podcast. Yeah.
well, again, I appreciate that opportunity for sure. So, and I didn't know that Gary and Bo started that. I think it again, it goes to show the kind of leadership that we have in this company because we understand that we still have a way to go, and yet we're willing to put in the work to get there. And I love that about Gary. I had the pleasure of being with him 2 weeks ago in Austin, and the guy is a visionary for
Oh,
sure.
yeah. Yeah. Oh,
So,
yeah.
well, wonderful. So let's now we had talked briefly yesterday about is this a book that you're planning or doing? You talked about uh
Yeah, so one of the guys
breaking
I met
down.
at TED Talk, that's the other thing about having conversations, he's a publisher. He's a major publisher, and we decided that I was going to write it. I've always wanted to write a book. I wanted to write a book. When I told you we were going to call it Breaking Barriers to Build Generational Wealth. However, I really feel called to have this conversation about bridging the gap of bringing people together. You know, like I really have I'd like to talk to people about how you get to meet David and how David gets to meet you and how Clinton and you can maybe have one too many drink coupons, you know, on the plane. but I really feel strongly about the power of the impact that we could have if we could just not be so divisive all the time, you know.
Yes.
And so we shifted it from breaking barriers to the second concept that I had, which really is about bridging the divide, and be it the racial wealth gap, or which is contributed is because of the real estate gap, the home ownership gap, or just in general, like how do we do business together? You know, especially, and I think, and really they had shied me away from it because of the current political environment. Like, Julia, nobody wants to talk about
Yeah.
diversity. It's going to just give it a rest for 4 years. Just
Mm,
sit this one out, you
yeah.
know. And I'm like, I don't know that we should. I think more than anything, people now, and that's why those guys engage with me. I think more than anything now, people are like, we don't have to be like this, you know.
Yes.
And so I really feel called to have those conversations more than anything. And so I don't know. I have a meeting with him after this, actually. What we're going to call it, but the subject matter is about building bridges. And we do that. By the way, the common denominator with me and David and Clinton is they owned land. They owned land. They were sitting in first class because they got a little money because I was there on the upgrade. I just want to make that clear. I was upgraded. Okay, yeah, but they, but they paid for it because they got some money because they have some land. That's how people build wealth. And I would love to be the person to help people bridge that gap, so that we all can engage in a society where we have those kinds of funds. We all do better when we all do better. So that's what the book's going to be about: bridging the gap through real estate and leadership. Like you just talked about, Gary, there would be no diversity, equity, inclusion, no inclusion and belonging if there were no Gary with a vision.
Yes.
And so leaders who are leading this cause, even when people tell you it's not the time for it, nobody
Yes.
wants to hear that, that's a lie. They do
That's
want to hear that. Clinton
it.
was like, they got a whole job for that. I'm like, yeah, that's what I do. He's like, wow, I'll be damned. Like, yeah, people do want to talk about it. We do want to get along. We do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a segment that doesn't, but I think, you know what?
Yeah, you're right about it.
And you just said it. It is not the time for us to set this one out. I do have a couple of friends that are like, I'm setting it out, right? And I'm thinking, no, that's when you, me, we all step it up.
Yeah.
And so let's do that because
I had decided to set it out too. For about 2 weeks, I decided I was setting it out, and then
yeah,
and then I remembered I'd like to talk, so I was like, no, I'm gonna talk about it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, well, again, I think we will all, we're going to step into 2025 because it's here in the blink of an eye. And I think that, again, with the challenges that it brings so many opportunities for those of us that are willing to stretch and grow and be vulnerable. And I'm willing, and I know you are too. So, again, like I said, our time is so quick together. Is there something that you'd like to bring up briefly that
Well, if I could just ask all the people on here, if you could just find more people, meet more people. Through my role as head of inclusion and belonging, have had the opportunity to meet all kinds of people. You don't have to agree with them all. Like David was talking to me about his perspectives and his political belief. We didn't agree at all, at all. And I didn't feel like it was necessary to chime in about that because I was just learning from him. But sometimes be a little less offended, have conversations with people that you wouldn't typically talk to, engage in those things, meet somebody different. I was teaching a class one time and somebody said, it's hard to hate up close. People hate what they don't know and what they're afraid of. And you're normally afraid of because you have never had any interactions with, right? So meet people that you wouldn't typically meet. Do business with people you wouldn't typically do business with. That's what I would like to leave people with is on this Thanksgiving, even find somebody that you wouldn't typically find to bless. And have and you know what, you can bless them by simply having a conversation. You taking the time, Ben, to ask about my friend and my son, just having those conversations with people you wouldn't have without any judgment, right? I mean, because they was saying some crazy stuff, but I was just like, okay, I'm not offended by it. That's his perspective, it's all good.
right.
But be unoffended and just engage in conversations. We grow. We like to say your business grows to the extent that you do. And
Amen.
you have the opportunity to grow by meeting people. There's millions of them out there.
Right.
Meet somebody new with a different perspective than yours. And it's so that you don't have to adopt their perspective. You
That's
don't have
right.
to adopt their lifestyle. No one's asking you to do that. Just
That's right.
talk to them.
That's
Yeah.
right. And we don't have to be offended because they're uniquely them and different, right? We can still learn and grow. And I've got that same Clinton and David, Tony McCollum, who's one of my best clients. This guy wouldn't buy real estate without me. Now he's in Oklahoma and he wants me to get my license there so I can service him in Oklahoma. And we are so polar opposites when it comes to things, and especially politics. But yet he trusts him some benbaker. So
Yeah. Yeah. We can still do business together. We can still live next door to each other. We can do
right.
all these things. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So what's up next? Do you one, you're probably getting on a plane. I think you said you're headed to Texas. I'm sure we've got, family reunion is right around the corner. Do you have another
I'm
trip?
speaking there. I'm speaking at the CEO Summit. In fact, I'm doing my TED Talk at the CEO
Get
Summit.
out. Get out. All right.
Yeah.
Again, I'll be there. So I'm looking
Don't
forward.
miss it. Make sure you sign up for Gary's CEO Summit. I am going to do my TED Talk live and in person.
Yeah, well, again, I've made most of them, and they're so intriguing when you're hearing from real business. I mean, business leaders, business owners, right, and how they think and what they do. Because we're all the same. We just have smaller versions, and again, I think for 2025, we need to think
Mhm.
bigger, and I feel like that's something that I'm having to adopt. Is
Hey,
because
Mr. Shirt, think big, achieve more. Yes.
see, Julia, that's my good buddy. He is right next door to me. So Steve and I
Yeah.
share a wall together. So we're
Get
so
around some people that
like-minded.
think big, move around to some other people. Those aren't your
Yeah.
people. Yeah.
Well, sweetheart, I appreciate you giving us a minute of your time. Be blessed, guys. If you need Julia, I'm sure Christina's probably already put it in the chat because she's so accessible. And again, tell us about your team because if we've got something headed toward Minnesota,
Minneapolis. Yeah, so I'm the operating principal of the Minneapolis Market Center. We have 270 agents in our market center. We do all of it, commercial, luxury, any of those things. My team sits in my market center, the Signature Group. We would love to service you in Minneapolis. If you got friends, family referrals, send them our way. You will not be disappointed. We would love to have your business. Money, 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 money.